Welcome to Tuesday. It's the 13th day of February 2024. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism. Head to Thermopolis to swim, soak, and slide. Head to Thermopolis and check them out at thermopolis.com. No matter how cold or snowy it gets, you can always find yourself in hot water. Well, a little bit of Canada and a little bit of Pacific in the western United States coming here in the west over the next 5 to 7 days here before we see the weather pattern kind of shifting gears again. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Lots of beautiful shots from all this stormy weather over the last couple of weeks across the west. A lot of the western mountains covered in some fresh snow from Arizona to California and elsewhere. A nice shot there in the Flagstaff area. The snowpack across a lot of the west, mainly in the central and southern Rockies, southwest United States, seeing those bigger increases. But it'll be high pressure for most areas again today, except for the northern areas. We'll show you that area that'll have a little bit of weather today. We still expect a series of small weather systems to slide in from the northwest into the region between now and Friday. What this will result in is some colder, more active weather, most active in a lot of the areas that have been missing the winter weather this year, like the Black Hills, like parts of northern Wyoming, parts of Montana. You're going to get most of the action over the next 5 to 6 days. Areas that are more directed to the south are going to be looking at less in the way of impacting weather. The Pacific is going to start to take over again into next week, and that'll be important long term, and we'll talk about that. Here's a shot out of the Grants, New Mexico area of Mount Taylor. Mount Taylor covered in a good amount of snow with a snow squall there going over on through. And boy, look at that shot of the Sangre de Cristos. A really nice coating of new snowfall from the recent stormy activity that's been traversing the high country of Colorado and the Intermountain West over the last 10 days or so from all that California storminess. The satellite photos today, it's really hard to see much, but there's some stuff going on. We got a strong jet stream wind coming into here. We've got some instability, some areas of low pressure here in western and southwestern areas of Canada, as we're going to be looking at kind of a complex area of low pressure here interacting with low pressure here. We'll show you that in a minute. That's kind of complicating the forecast, but the overall general trends we've been talking about are still the same. Here's that low off the Pacific coast. Here's that instability and low pressure I showed you on the satellite imagery. These two are going to sort of work together to pinch off this high. Now, what that'll do is that will minimize the impacts of the really cold air that's up here. Colder air is coming for the end of the week, but it would be a lot colder if these two wouldn't be merging, allowing this high pressure to really drive that colder air further south. So this bridging between these two lows going to make a lot of the central United States colder, but not nearly as cold as it could be. Nonetheless, it is going to cause some Canadian air to come in and Pacific air to come in at the same time, focused on those northern areas. This is by late Thursday into Thursday evening. You can see that bridge there between the two. This is not allowing this to come down the jet stream as much as it would to the south. But what it will do is funnel Pacific air and Canadian air and kind of merge them right there, overrunning, where Pacific air overruns the colder Canadian air. This is why the northern areas are going to get the most winter weather. Now, this is only through tomorrow morning, but some of that Pacific moisture is going to produce some snow along the front range of Montana, into parts of west central Wyoming, and even into parts of South Dakota. Then up here into Alberta and Saskatchewan and over into Manitoba, there's going to be that moisture from the Pacific overrunning that colder air leaking south out of Canada. And you can see, though, from really I-80 south, very little going on. Most of the action going to be up north. This is the snowfall through tomorrow. So the Wind Rivers, the Jackson area, going to get a little bit of snow focus into those areas there. Now, that's sort of what happens over the next 24 hours. However, the next period of weather, as more of that Pacific air comes in and that Canadian air pushes a little bit further south, we're going to get an overrunning band of snow that'll go across South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, Montana, and northern Wyoming. The mountains are going to be picking up some decent snow out of this right here, coming on in, stronger moist Pacific jet stream winds. Just a widespread light to moderate snow event across parts of Nebraska, southwest Minnesota into Iowa there. You can see that the snow kind of stops right at the Cheyenne Ridge here. The coldest air and the overrunning kind of stops there. The points north, it's going to be a little bit more. So the Black Hills, hey, you're finally going to get some snow, some more snow for the Bighorns, more snow for the mountain areas here that need it to help out the snowpack up there. But there's still going to be a decent snow for the southern mountains of Wyoming and central Colorado to help out the ski areas, help out the snowpack, the northern stretches of the Wasatch Front. Now, northern and central California into the Pacific Northwest, the focus of the storminess going to be central and northern California points north, the desert southwest, and those southern areas going to catch a break and really not have much weather. And that's what the total snowfall forecast looks like from today through noon Saturday. So you can see if you're going to be traveling Interstate 90 later this week and into the start of the weekend, you're going to have some travel hazards there. Then temperatures, this is that cold air spilling down the divide. This is by Friday, and that Pacific moisture overrunning it there. Now long term, this is by Sunday. Notice the high pressure ridge up here is fading, kind of breaking apart, and we've got a strong low off the coast of California. We have a little wave right here that will come through the Rockies this weekend. That will produce some weekend snow in the mountains, maybe a few snow showers on the plains. This low is likely going to direct moisture into central and northern California and the Pacific Northwest heading into early next week. So what will happen, as we'll show you here in a moment, as we get into late this weekend and next week and the week after, the Pacific is going to have another burst of storminess. This is why. If we take a look at the 300 millibar pattern, basically where the jet stream is, we showed you a chart like this a couple weeks ago when we're going to start to see the weather get active again. This is by this upcoming weekend. This is by Saturday. So notice we're getting a strong southerly jet stream forming here in the Pacific again, north of Hawaii. And this is going to start driving more precipitation into California and get an active pattern. So basically this doesn't happen right away, but as we showed you before, it's a signal. It's a signal of something that comes later. So as we see this, but also I want you to notice up here, see these stronger areas of jet stream winds along the northern areas? We're starting to develop not only another strong southerly jet, which is what you're going to get in an El Nino, but you also are starting to see a more activity in the northern jet. And when you start to get both of these interacting, this is what we have to watch out for really as we go out in the next 2 weeks, as we get to the end of February into early March. Now, if we were to go out further 10 days, notice this northern branch across the northern Pacific is becoming more active and stronger. The southern branch is much, much weaker, but you know what? It's still there. So as we get to the latter part of February into early March, these two are likely going to interact. What am I saying? What I'm saying is late February into early March, things could get quite interesting. And we're already seeing that on the 10-day European model with a very strong jet stream here forming across the central and north Pacific, and that's going to be directed towards the west. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. And traditionally speaking, when you get to late February into early March, you do tend to see things pick up and get more busy. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.